There's a person in every group. You don't always notice them until something breaks, and then, when it does, a pipe, a relationship, a plan, an entire weekend, they get quiet for just a second. Not panicked, not reaching for their phone with shaking hands, just quiet. And then they move. They do something. And somehow, that something works. And you're standing there, stomach tight, wondering why your first instinct was to spiral. That gap between the person who gets quiet and the person who falls apart isn't luck. It isn't confidence in the way most people mean that word. And it definitely isn't some personality type you either have or you don't. Once you actually understand what's happening inside that person, you'll start seeing it everywhere. And you'll never look at a broken thing the same way again. In the late 1970s, a psychologist named Albert Bandura identified something that changed how researchers understood human behavior. He called it self-efficacy. Not confidence in a general sense, not "I'm a positive person" or "things usually work out." Something much more specific than that. Self-efficacy is the quiet internal belief that this thing in front of me is handleable, that you, specifically with the tools you currently have, can reach into this situation and affect it. Bandura found that this belief, just this belief, determined how long someone would persist at a problem before giving up, how much effort they put in when things got hard, whether they even tried at all. And the most important thing his research showed? It's almost never about raw talent. It's about a history of experiences. Think about the first time a kid actually fixes something. Not watches someone fix it. Not gets told they're smart. Actually tries something and it works. Maybe they wiggled the loose wire and the lamp came back on. Maybe they rebooted the computer themselves and watched it load. Maybe they pressed down on a cut until it stopped bleeding. Small things, almost trivial. But something happens in that moment that has nothing to do with the lamp or the cut. Their nervous system files that away. I reached into the world and changed something, and the next time something breaks, they don't go into shutdown mode. There's almost a mild curiosity instead, like, oh, this is a puzzle. I've solved puzzles before. Bandura called these moments mastery experiences, and his research ranked them as the single most powerful source of self-efficacy there is. Not being told you're capable. Not watching someone else do it. Actually doing it yourself. That's the thing that rewires you. But here's what most people never notice about the person who fixes things. They are not certain it's going to work. They're not carrying some guarantee that everyone else is missing. They feel the same uncertainty you feel when something goes wrong. What's different, the thing that actually separates them, is that uncertainty doesn't feel like a verdict to them. It feels like a starting point. There's a concept in psychology called tolerance of ambiguity. The ability to sit inside a situation where you don't yet have an answer and not completely fall apart while you figure it out. People with low tolerance for ambiguity need resolution fast. They need to know it's going to be okay right now. And when they can't get that, when the answer isn't immediately available, anxiety takes over. They freeze. Or they hand the problem to whoever seems calm and step back. The fixer in your life learned somewhere to be okay in that uncomfortable space. That in-between place where nothing is fixed yet and you don't know if it will be. They don't like it any more than you do. They just stopped needing to escape it immediately. Julian Rotter spent years studying what he called locus of control. The degree to which a person believes their own actions actually shape what happens to them. People who sit on the internal end of that scale, people who genuinely believe their effort matters, don't just fix things better. They're less likely to develop depression. They cope with stress in ways that don't involve dismantling their lives. They persist longer at almost everything. And research has found this pattern across different cultures, different age groups, different life circumstances. The belief that your effort actually matters turns out to be one of the most protective psychological traits a person can have. But almost none of these people were born with it. It came from somewhere, usually a very specific somewhere. Sometimes it was a parent who said, "I'm not going to give you the answer. I'm going to help you figure it out." Sometimes it was the opposite. A parent who wasn't there and the kid had to figure it out alone. Both paths lead to the same internal architecture, the same quiet belief. I've handled things before. I can handle this. Now here's the part that changes how you see these people entirely. Because what looks like calm competence from the outside isn't always the same thing on the inside. Some people who fix everything, who are always the one handling the situation, always the one with the solution, aren't doing it from a place of strength. Some of them learned to fix things because it was how they earned their place. Standing there helpless was, at some point in their lives, genuinely risky. Maybe it meant not being valued. Maybe it meant being left alone with the chaos. So their nervous system made a decision. I will never be helpless again. And that decision became a skill. And that skill became an identity. You can see the tell if you know what to look for. Ask them to let someone else handle something. Watch what happens. They can't fully relax. They're hovering. Offering suggestions nobody asked for, subtly taking back control. Because an unfixed thing in their environment feels like something unresolved inside of them. The compulsion isn't about the problem, it's about the feeling the problem creates. That's a coping mechanism wearing a superpower's costume. But then, there's the other kind. And this is the one that's genuinely worth understanding. The person who fixes things out of pure curiosity. Because broken things fascinate them. The gap between not working and working is one of the most interesting places in the world to them. These are the people who will tear apart something they already fixed just to understand it better, who ask questions with no practical use, who explain what went wrong with a level of detail nobody asked for. And they're delighted while they do it, like they just found out something beautiful. These people fell in love with competence itself, not the outcome, not the credit, the process, the figuring out. Spending time around someone like that is one of the most quietly recalibrating experiences you can have. Because what they model, without even meaning to, is a completely different relationship to not knowing. For them, not knowing how to do something isn't a verdict on who they are. It's just a temporary state. A beginning. Broken isn't a permanent condition. It's just the starting position. You might be sitting here recognizing yourself in that. Maybe you're one of these people and you've never really thought about what made you that way. Or maybe you're on the other side, and the idea of being this way feels genuinely foreign. Like it belongs to a category of people you're not in. If it's the second one, it's worth sitting with something for a moment. The reason you hand your broken things to someone else isn't a character flaw, it's a history. A set of experiences that taught you, at a level below language, that problems are things that happen to you rather than things you can affect. That the right response to uncertainty is to wait for someone more capable to arrive. That your effort might not matter. That learning happened somewhere, in a specific place, at a specific age, from specific moments that added up. And what was learned can be relearned. The entire architecture of self-efficacy, Bandura's whole argument, is that it builds through experience. Small wins. Tiny moments of I tried and it worked. Not grand gestures, not heroic fixes, just you tightened the screw yourself. You made the call. You didn't wait, just this once. That's where it starts. There's something almost invisible that happens over time when a person accumulates enough of those moments. They stop thinking of themselves as someone who needs things fixed. They start thinking of themselves as someone who figures things out. And those are not the same identity, not even close. One of those identities goes looking for the nearest capable person when something breaks. The other goes looking for the first small thing they can actually affect. Same broken situation, completely different first move. The calm you see in someone who knows how to fix things, that specific quietness before they start doing something, isn't the absence of anxiety. It's not even really confidence in the way the word usually gets used. It's something quieter than that. It's a relationship with uncertainty that developed over hundreds of small moments where they reached into a problem and moved something, where the world turned out to be something they could touch, where not knowing turned out to be temporary. They're not different from you in kind, they're different in history, and history, unlike character, is always still being written.